The sun hadn't even risen yet, and the ground was already burning. A man stands silently beside the Nile River. No shoes, cracked skin, a body covered in dust. In a few minutes, the heat will become unbearable, but he has no choice. Because if he stops working for even one day, his family might starve. This was the life of ancient Egyptian farmers. Not kings, not pharaohs, not pyramid builders. The people history almost forgot. When most people imagine ancient Egypt, they see giant pyramids, golden masks, treasure-filled tombs. But far away from those monuments, millions of ordinary farmers were fighting a different battle every single day. The heat, an endless, brutal, soul-draining heat. And somehow, they survived it for thousands of years.
By noon, temperatures in ancient Egypt could climb high enough to make the air itself feel heavy. The desert winds carried burning sand across open fields. The ground cracked. Water disappeared quickly, and the sun never seemed to show mercy. Yet somehow, Egyptian civilization became one of the most powerful empires in human history. How? Because these farmers learned secrets of survival that sound almost impossible today. Every year, the Nile River became their lifeline. Without it, Egypt would have been nothing more than endless desert. The farmers understood something terrifying. If the Nile flooded correctly, they lived. If it didn't, people died. That's how fragile life was. The flooding season transformed the land. Dark, rich mud spread across the fields like black paint. The farmers rushed into action immediately, planting crops before the scorching heat returned. And they worked fast, because time was the enemy. Imagine bending over for hours under a blazing Egyptian sun, with no sunscreen, no air conditioning, no cold water bottles, no modern medicine. Only survival. The strangest part? Many farmers actually worked during the coolest hours of the day, before sunrise and after sunset. In the middle of extreme heat, some slowed down or sheltered wherever they could. Tiny mud brick homes became survival bunkers. The thick walls trapped cooler air inside. Small windows blocked sunlight. Some families even slept on rooftops at night, just to escape the suffocating heat trapped indoors. But even resting was dangerous. Snakes hid in cool shadows. Scorpions crawled through cracks in the walls. Mosquitoes spread disease near the riverbanks. And still, every morning, they went back to the fields. Children worked beside their parents. Women carried water jars across burning ground. Old men with exhausted bodies still planted grain, because every pair of hands mattered. There were no vacations, no weekends, no escape. And yet, many ancient Egyptian farmers developed survival techniques so clever that parts of them are still used in hot climates today. One of their greatest weapons was clothing. Most people think loose white robes were simply cultural fashion. They weren't. The lightweight linen reflected sunlight and allowed air to move across the skin. Covering the body actually protected them better than exposing it. Even their shaved heads had a purpose. Hair trapped heat. Removing it helped the body stay cooler in brutal temperatures. But survival wasn't just physical. It was psychological, because the heat could break people mentally. Imagine watching your crops dry out under a merciless sky, knowing your entire future depended on rain and river floods you couldn't control. Ancient Egyptian farmers believed the gods controlled the Nile itself. floods failed, many believed the gods were angry. Fear became part of daily life. Then came the drought years. And this is where the story turns darker. Some historians believe periods of extreme drought pushed Egypt into chaos. Crops failed, food vanished, families starved. There are ancient records describing desperate people stealing grain, entire communities collapsing, and social order beginning to crack apart. Because even the mighty Egypt everyone admires today was only a few failed harvests away from disaster. That's the terrifying truth history books rarely talk about. The pyramids weren't built on gold. They were built on survival, on exhausted farmers standing in unbearable heat, day after day, year after year. And somehow, despite everything, they endured. What's even more incredible is how deeply connected these farmers became with the rhythm of nature.
They studied the stars. They tracked the Nile's behavior. They memorized seasonal winds. Their entire existence depended on reading tiny environmental signs most modern people would never notice. In many ways, they became human survival experts, not through science labs or technology, but through suffering. And maybe that's why this story still feels strangely powerful today. Because even now, thousands of years later, humans are still fighting heat, drought, climate disasters, and the fear of losing everything when nature turns against us. The world has changed, but survival hasn't. Somewhere along the Nile, as the sun disappeared behind the horizon, an exhausted farmer once sat silently beside the river after another impossible day. No fame, no statues, no history books written about him. But without people like him, ancient Egypt would have never existed at all.